Okay, I think we are recording. So for those of you on tonight, Stephanie, Marty, love you guys. For those of you guys that are listening, hopefully that this will give you some information that maybe you've been looking for, maybe that you've been searching, because I really wanted to come to you tonight about a topic, avoiding burnout, that is super close to my heart, because it is something that I have seen in my 4 years, much more than I would ever have thought. And I think it can be really eye-opening and caught at a delicate time before it turns into a downward spiral. I think avoiding burnout is super timely and an important topic right now. I think that maybe some of you guys could be familiar with people that you have seen kind of come and go. And even if Plexus is your passion and you love it, burnout is real, and we have to be intentional to avoid it. And often it comes simply because you have worked too much, you're pushing yourself too much, or on the flip side, maybe just feel like it's too impossible. It's not going to happen for you. So I'm coming to you at a place of been there, done that, and figured out what's worked for me. But I can't tell you how many times I've gotten to that mode myself. And I probably don't do a good enough job at sharing that I have gotten there. But that comes for me usually after a big push or, leaders retreat type of contest, or an incentive that you're going for. That's kind of where I start to feel my burnout mode. And then once you get into that mode, you really feel out of balance. So there are going to be aspects and times where this is completely normal in your business. I think it's kind of like that roller coaster effect. But we are also in a kind of an all or nothing society. So once you have maybe hit a goal that you're going for and working so hard and pushing so hard, we swing that pendulum right back totally the other way. So that's where it can kind of feel critical that we're giving it either our all or we're giving it our nothing. So we have the power to change the balance or the structure of your time to fit your why of what's going on right then. So there's going to be seasons where you are just crazier than other seasons in your business, in your life, in your personal life. But you have that ability and you have that control to be able to structure this around what's going on then. So again, been there, been burnt out, but I feel like I have developed some strategies to help push me through. And that's kind of what I wanted to pour into you guys tonight. So first, I wanted to talk about the balance between work and home. I often think that that's the biggest source of burnout for a lot of people. And I think that we can talk about balance all day long, but sometimes we can feel like that's a myth, because if you think about what balance means, it's equal distribution between home and work. And if we're completely real with ourselves, that equal distribution is never going to happen, no matter how hard we try. And we can try really hard for that, but that's just, that's how it is. So sometimes our families or other priorities are going to get all of us, and they should get all of us. And you're going to spend all your time there. And then sometimes Plexus or your business will get the best of you that day. And then sometimes when you're like that, it can feel like you're kind of on a seesaw, right? A balanced seesaw. So when that happens, don't get discouraged. Instead, try to focus on strategies that will help us and you find that peace where we can really kind of give ourselves some grace. It's normal to have some burnout. And I always feel it when I'm pushing for a rank. But what happens, that's where the balance really starts to come into play. But what we want to strive for is peace and that balance with home and work life merging in together. And when I say home life, some of us have families, some of us have really busy social circles, some of us have other jobs. So just kind of having that all merge in together. But the good news is I want to give you things tonight to do so they're able to still be there to honor other commitments and to work more effectively in your business while avoiding that crash and burnout. So if you want to grab a notebook or a pen or just kind of soak it in between your ears, I wanted to give you some tips. So the first tip would be we have to be intentional. It's easy to blame Plexus or blame the business on the burnout. I think that that's super easy to do. And I think it's super easy for our families to do the same, especially when they kind of see us doing that crash and burnout. When in reality, that's on us. It's the precedent or expectation that we have set kind of within ourselves. So like, we have to find what works for us in this business. But Plexus isn't telling us that we have to be on our phones all the time, or it's not telling us that we have to miss family moments. That's on us. I know for me personally, I kind of set that precedent, I think, in the very beginning with our team. Like, I feel like I work way too much where I could condense it and hone it down. And I kept thinking that that's what I had to do. And it's just not. It's just absolutely not that way. So I think when we think about ourselves, like we pick up our phone when we don't really even need to. So tonight, if you do nothing else from this call, just think about being intentional with your time and social media and your work hours. So let's talk about schedule and work hours. We hear this a lot, maybe even taking notes like if you are right now, or thinking that we're going to do all of these things, but we never put it to action. So it doesn't matter the way you schedule things. So you can do, have a calendar or a planner or Post-it notes. The only thing that truly matters is that you put your action to work. So, schedule your time with intention and stick to it. What works for you personally? I am a Post-it note girl. I am a girl with a file box. Like, this is what works for me. Find what works for you. And for something, if this method does not work for you, find another method. Like, I've tried other methods before electronically, and I fail miserably because it's just not something that works for me. And most importantly, know your strengths. I tried to go to a monthly system, like looking at bigger picture, and it didn't work for me. So that's when I stopped looking at big picture and really started focusing on day-to-day and weekly goals. That is really what personally works for me, but find what works for you and really be intentional. So that's the first tip, because I think once we're more intentional with our business and intentional on, okay, you have 10 minutes a day, or you have 30 minutes a day. What are you going to do in those 30 minutes? That is the first tip. When we say that Plexus is a side gig that, we fit into the nooks and crannies of our day, we still need to treat it like an actual job. Just because we're working from our phone and maybe only 30 minutes a day doesn't mean that we don't treat it like any other professional job. And there are going to be days where you need to just sit at your workspace, wherever that is, your car, your office, your kitchen table, your couch, and clock into Plexus and ignore everything else for that small period of time. And the way I like to think of it is, like, I work full time. I have a 15-minute commute, very short, but 15-minute commute. I come home, my daughter's home like 10 minutes after I get home. And I literally don't feel like I have any time to myself, or that I wouldn't feel guilty from, the rest of the night. So especially in the beginning, I needed to figure it out because I didn't feel like I had a lot of time for it. And I think that that's where we can really get caught up. I don't have enough time. I cannot find the time where I can literally do this and still be a good mom or a good friend or whatever it is. I had to be intentional. I would put into my planner, because I love, this is my older one, but I have to have this in my hand, in my purse. I'm always taking it everywhere with me. But I would put into my planner, okay, 9 to 9:30 p.m. or whatever time, 5:30 to 6 a.m. Plexus. That's my 30 minutes. So I knew the 3 things that I had to do with my 30 minutes, or whatever that nook and cranny looked like that day. I had to be focused. I couldn't be scrolling. I didn't want to I get so stuck on the Messenger app. Like, once I open that up, I'm derailed for the rest of the day. But I had to stay focused, no scrolling, and not answer messages until I really was intentional with my 30 minutes. So sometimes if we don't schedule that time, we are literally working by the seat of our pants. And that is a stressful feeling. And we can't ever see progress because we never see things that are being checked off our list. So when we don't see accomplishments and things, or we think that we're not seeing it, then it can put us in a complete funk, which can go to burnout. So that was tip 1, be intentional. Second tip, boundaries. We need to set them and we need to keep them. So if you have a boundary that says, okay, on Sundays, I am not working my Plexus business, then do not work your Plexus business on Sundays at all. My boundaries aren't going to be the same as yours. Yours aren't going to be the same as mine. And you have to really decide what yours are and make sure that they match up with your goals. But the key is setting those boundaries and keeping them. I know for me, this is probably one of the hardest things that I have had to do, because I always want to feel like I am there every second of every day and being available. And that what happens is, on that side, if I'm answering messages at midnight, what is that going to do to the other person on the other end? They're going to be like, oh my gosh, like, does this person not sleep? And why, so I want to really stress that you set your boundaries. If you have certain boundaries of answering messages on Facebook or reaching out to people, those are your boundaries and they are perfect for you. So one thing that is a great way to figure out how to do this is to, if you have a family at home, is to have a meeting with your family. Sit down with them and say, you know what, I'm going to do this because of this. Or I want to let you know that this is what it's going to take for me, if that's 30 minutes per day, but this has to be my time. And let them know what it means to you. Have those meetings and figure out what those boundaries are. And also keep in mind, you're going to want to have the time to work your business. And so find out what those sacrifices could be. And when I say have the time, I mean, that can be, again, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but find out what that's going to look like for you. And maybe take a piece of paper and a pen and find out where you could earn back time through your day. Maybe that's cutting out Netflix. I know that's really hard because Ozark is the most amazing show in the entire world. Maybe that's staying up an hour later. Maybe that's getting up an hour earlier. Whatever that is. But, some people don't work on Sundays or at dinner time. Like, those are maybe their boundaries. For me personally, every Sunday night for the past 3.5 years, with the exception of maybe 2 Sundays, I have dedicated myself to this team and to our team calls because I think it's super important. I've had other teams reach out and say, you do calls every week. And I love it. I think it's important. I think that the different topics are important. That's something that has been it's a boundary, but it's also a thing. Like, I work on our team call content on Fridays or Saturdays. So that's been a thing for me. But with that said, because Sunday nights are team calls for us, like, I needed and I wanted to sit down with Sophie and say, are you okay that I'm not getting you ready for bed, but I'm going to be available after to put you to bed? I want her to know, so that it's an expectation that this is how it's going to work. And make sure to stick to those boundaries, because the great thing is that we work from our phone, but it's also really, really easy to pick them up. So sometimes I have to put my phone in the other room so I won't pick it up out of bad habit. You hear that ding, you hear that notification. Like, we work from our phones, we're just kind of accustomed to kind of go look and, did somebody like something or did somebody comment? I have to answer a question. So maybe find what's going to work for you about turning your phone in airplane mode or putting it into another room. Because the great thing about our business is that we're dependent on social media, but this can also make us resent our business, because sometimes for social media, we can use it to numb our minds, or we might get stuck scrolling, or right now, because of all the election things, all this negativity. So all these things. But what happens is that we can end up blaming Plexus and our business, and we start resenting Facebook, and we want to take a break from Facebook. How many people do you know that, or if you're personally, have been like, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore? And I've seen this tons of times. And it's so hard when you kind of look big picture. Like, this isn't, hey baby, this isn't a Facebook problem or a Plexus problem. It's an us problem. And it comes with, it comes with boundaries, and it comes with us being intentional with social media time. And even though Buffer and Hootsuite are not really Facebook friendly any longer on our own personal walls, you can still kind of map out your time so that you know exactly what you're going to do, what you're going to post, without spending a long time, you know, those 4 hours where you're like, oh my gosh, I've been scrolling this forever. You can still schedule it out by knowing what you're posting about or having specific posts saved in your save folder and knowing what you might post for that week. If you have an hour to work your business, I recommend you scheduling your Facebook time. So if it's not time for Facebook in your business hour that you have, don't open the Facebook app. And when it's time to scroll, and when it's time for you to work your business, don't scroll, because that's the biggest time waster. So I have 4 tips on how to be intentional. How can we be intentional? Just when we talk about coming to the social media. Number 1, take a list of your potentials and engage with them on Facebook for 10 minutes, just going straight to their pages. So you have a list of your potentials, maybe a list of people you've sent samples to, or people that you've asked about, or people that are on your dream team list. Go straight to their pages. Don't scroll and wait for to see them in your newsfeed. Just go straight there, make a comment, anything, just to keep that engagement. Number 2, you can leave all of your messages unread until you are ready to sit down and read them in Messenger. Do not answer them. They will all stay bold. Don't answer them do answer them, but keep them all bold. And when it's time for you to do your message work, when it's time for you to work your business, whether it's that 30-minute window, an hour, whatever that is, you can click on each one when it's time to be intentional and answer that. Because I think that we're so prone to, and I know that I'm like this, a message comes through and I'm like, have to answer it right away, that I'm not putting a ton of thought in at that moment. But I think that if you're sitting down and you're really intentional and you're going to put yourself out there and put focus, and it's your time, you're going to have a better, more clear-cut answer and give the information that's needed. So I think that if you're being productive and you're answering all day long, it could really be doing you a setback rather than pushing forward. Number 3, make time for the personal team page, whether that be if you have a team page or it's the big team page. And I want to stress how important this is. I know a lot of people don't think being on the big team page is important for your business, but it really builds influence for your personally sponsored ambassadors, and you're adding value to them. So, give people shout outs on the big team page, or post yourself, or give people shout outs, or do something, similar along those lines on your own personal team pages. I think that's a big thing that really helped me build my confidence was, when I started, Jen's team page was huge. But it helped me build my confidence by creating my own and really getting involved that way and like helping answer questions or just putting information out there. And I just think that helps with your leadership skills, and it helps just giving your self-confidence of knowing that people can kind of go and depend on you in that sense. And then number 4, the last tip for social media, really being a time waster. There is a new app. If you have an iPhone, it's a screen time tracker. So it will tell you how much screen time you have. So you don't have to get, too hard on yourself if you're trying to be intentional. But it has a feature where you can set limits on certain apps. So like if you are really being true to yourself and you're like, okay, 20 minutes on Facebook doing all my intentional work, you can set a limit on that app so that you can be on as long as that you set it, and then it shuts you down so that you're not making yourself overwork, or you're not, if you've promised yourself you have 20 minutes, you set that timer or you put that limit on that Facebook app and you do your 20 minutes and you shut it down and then you leave, you leave the room. So those are just a couple of social media tips. The next topic really quickly I wanted to talk about was prioritizing and actions to take. So again, for me, like I mentioned earlier, I work full time. And what I've noticed with my personal self, if I don't set a timer or plan my day with a clear list of priorities, like even down to the list on a Post-it note where I'm like, contact Jen, call so-and-so, and I have to check it off. If I don't have that time where I can sit down and spend 5 minutes of prep work, it derails me completely. I go in and handle messages or notifications, like you're sitting there and you're looking and all of a sudden there's 6 notifications and you're like, oh, I wonder what that is. And before long, I've spent 30 minutes and not gotten any of my IPA done. So for 4 priorities that I have scheduled in every single day for myself, I want to give those to you because I think that these priorities can work for everyone. They definitely worked for me, but they're just really good to tweak off of if you feel like maybe that doesn't sound like you. But here are 4 priorities that I have to schedule in every single day. So the first one is priority for Plexus, not my personal life, but Plexus business life. The first one is new business. Second is retention. Third is the culture of our team, really mainly the relationship part of it. And fourth is personal development. Because I think if you aren't growing, you're not going to grow. And I feel that those 4 priorities are super important. And everything that I'm trying to do on a daily and weekly basis, I want to make sure that I'm prioritizing things that are going to impact those 4 priorities so that when I'm sitting down, I want it to be intentional and I want to do my work with intent and efficiency. Because you might end up getting in, some of you guys might feel this way already, but you might end up getting into that trap with your husband or your spouse, your family, where they start resenting your business also. And you're going to feel the burnout with that. Trust me. So organize your activity with those priorities in mind. Set an alarm for 30 minutes or whatever time you have that day. The beginning of the week, try to set out weekly goals so that you know what you're going after. If you're sitting down without some sort of goal for your month or your week or your day, it's really, really hard to work towards something without feeling like you're just going through the motions. So taking that small time of prep work for 5 minutes and schedule out what you're going to do. The biggest thing that I have seen probably when people have a limited amount of time and they limit their time, that's when they become more efficient and those little pieces of balance that are flying all over really fall into place where they're supposed to. Whereas if you have like the whole day, it's like hard to kind of really sit down and focus on. So if you know that you only have 30 minutes, you're going to make that time more efficient. And all the puzzle pieces come together and you start feeling more contentment and less resentment. And I think that that's the big key. So schedule that time and just don't put it in the air. So if you have an hour to spend, holy cow, you're going to move mountains that day, but you want to prioritize it out. So spend some time on team pages, on calls, on training. But those 4 priorities, those are great priorities to help keep your business moving forward in the direction that you want it to go to. And then the last thing that I have is effective activity. So like busy work versus purposeful work, which is a big key for everyone. And I like to talk about like scrolling with a purpose. So what does that mean? We talk about not scrolling on Facebook, but scrolling with a purpose. Start out with your list of 20 people, which is your hot list that month. 20 people. Who are those people? Who are the people who need these products? Who are the people that need these opportunities? Who are the people that you want to go not one more day without them by your side? Who are those people that you feel like would really benefit in the entire big picture? Have that list of 20. So then also within that list of 20, have another list of who are your customers. Have your customer list available. Who are your ambassadors? Have that list available. Those are your people. You're not just scrolling, but you're putting them intentionally in a group on Facebook. And what I mean by that is that you can sort your Facebook friends into a list, into specific groups that show up on the side. And if you haven't done that yet, it's so super helpful. And I can always help you. I know other people can help you do that as well. But really what it is that you're taking that list and you're putting them into that customized Facebook group. And so it's really helping optimize your time. So instead of maybe even going directly to their pages, you can go to that list and you can be intentional and make sure you're visiting and helping. If they're your ambassadors, you can support their posts. If they're your customers, you can always be checking in. So it's just a huge thing that you can do to use for your Facebook time. In addition to plan out your posts for the week, I want you to challenge yourself to plan out 3 Plexus posts per week, 3. And then the rest can be filled in along the way. And then on Sunday nights, like think about like, what are you going to be doing this coming week? Write down 3 goals. What are your posting goals? Think about a testimony that you can put out there that it can try to reach people. We have a 7-day trial coming up. Think about, what you can do to help create engagement. Then also sit down and write down 5 people that you want to message that week. How are you going to message them? When? Strategically reach out to them to build that relationship. Because I think that planning is everything. And I know that this sounds complicated, but really it's not. It just takes a tiny bit amount of time at the beginning of each week. And then your entire week kind of flows into this plug and play mode. And it's a really efficient 30 minutes while you're working your business because you know what it's going to really look like. And then you have something that you can cross off and check. I can't even tell you how many times I have felt like I've been sitting there, maybe I have an hour, excuse me, and I legit got nothing done in that hour because I've been there so much. I sat down and had nothing in my mind of what I was doing. And I thought that I was going to do all this work and I just didn't because I got stuck just in whatever social media world I was stuck in. So sit down and have your hot list in your hand. Use your Plexus IPA sheet. It's so worth it. We have copies in the file tab on the team page. You can also find it in the back office. It is golden if you need some framework. And then have, your why clearly defined and your goals clearly defined. Always have your ambassador list handy and your customer list handy. I know that I just mentioned that a few minutes ago, but those are people that took the leap and trusted you and that you do not want to leave behind in the trenches. You always want to make sure that you're following up and giving that customer service. But anytime that you're in doubt with what you should be doing, hit those lists. Know what's kind of going on all the time within your business. And following up with people that quit or that have stopped, keeping those relationships going, checking in on customers, ambassadors, and then maybe figure out specific days that you want to reach out to potentials. I know that I always try to do that every single day, but that doesn't always happen. But Follow-Up Friday has been always really huge for me because it's a huge day that I feel like is a great way to start following up with people to work my business. It's payday for a lot of people. People maybe have their health on the top of mind, or maybe they have the funds to do so. But sit back and think like, what are my priorities? What do I want to accomplish this week? And not just post and hope that things will start coming your way. It's really about moving behind the scenes and moving forward and not just putting yourself fully out there on social media and hoping that it will all come right back at you. It's really about being intentional and moving forward that way. So the last thing that I'll say is, if you need help figuring out, like you do have 30 minutes, what is that 30 minutes going to look like? Like if you're new or if you're like, I just don't know how to reach out to people. I don't know what to say, or I don't know, all of these things, how to schedule that time. We have it fits, I like to call it Power Half Hour because it fits in 30 minutes, but it's the 3, 6, 9, 12 method. And that's like 3 minutes, 6 minutes, 9 minutes, 12 minutes. And you divide it up into different action items within those 30 minutes. I think it is huge. I think it works. We can definitely share this method with you if you're interested. But the only thing that I want to hit home for tonight, while you think about doing all of these things, making the lists, setting the time, it's up to us individually to follow through. Because just because we set boundaries, nobody is making us follow through. I've been there so much where I'm like, oh my gosh, I have the prettiest piece of paper and I have my list and it's all written down and all that stuff. And that's fabulous that it works like that. But then if you don't do anything with your list, then it's not really going to serve you that great of a purpose. It might be beautiful, but it's not intentional and it's not deliberate that you're using it. So just always try to be mindful of not letting your time be derailed by distractions of where you're going to be, how you're going to be dictating your time. Use that phone alarm. Definitely try to knock out, the time that you do have. And I think that that's going to be one of the most important things that you can do for your business, for yourself, I know that when it comes to burnout, it can definitely happen so quick that you don't even realize that you're there until you're already down that dark path of thinking like, this isn't for me. And it's again, those circle of lies that you're telling yourself, because I think that you came here for a reason. And I think that there is a reason why you have stayed even through the roller coaster of the up and down slopes. So I think that we have said before, like, if you feel like quitting, quit for a day and come back the next day, refreshed, ready to go. Because there is so much out there waiting for you. And the burnout method, it's definitely another one of those lies that we continue to tell ourselves, or you could really physically get there. However, there's ways to delicately, backtrack and rewind yourself and do a refresh restart of knowing how you're going to do things different, maybe the second time that you decide to give it another go. So hopefully you guys found some of this a little bit interesting. And I just really wanted to come at you tonight with this topic because I think that I have had a lot of questions lately. I know that there are a lot of things going on with maybe other opportunities or these shiny new pennies that people might be looking at and thinking like, this opportunity might be for me, or this isn't happening quick enough. And I want to tell you that you show up and you continue to do the work every single day and it will pay off. And I think that, well, I know confidently because of almost 5 years in this business, I have done research on the other compensation plans. I have done research on other products, and there is definitely not anything like Plexus, not like their culture, not like their integrity, not like their comp plan. So I think it's very easy when you get close to a burnout method to start looking outside and to start looking elsewhere. And I just think that think about really hard deep down of why you started, of what has kept you here, of what these products have done for you, of what this opportunity could look like for you. And you will really know that when you start feeling like where is your home and where is your purpose and where you're meant to be, I think it's going to, and I hope confidently can say that it's going to bring you back to your initial very first day and have that excitement and know why you started and have that blind faith and that blind trust, because there can be exciting things all different directions. But I think it's kind of that excitement will only last for as long as you feel it. And then it's going to go down, and then you're going to feel the same burnout way that you might be feeling now. And I think that once you've picked the path that you're going to go on and dedicate yourself to that path, that's when really big things can start to happen for you. Does anybody have any questions or anything that you want to share if you guys have experienced any type of burnout and like how you got through it, or maybe you're in it right now?
I have a question for you first.
Yeah.
You were prioritizing for Plexus, and you said new business retention. I don't know what the third one was, and then personal development was the fourth.
Oh yeah, new business. Retention was the second. The third was the culture of the team. So like relationship building. And then the fourth, personal development.
Okay. And I have to tell you that, yes, I've been in the burnout. I've been at this almost 3 years now. And I thought, because my youngest one was leaving to go to college, and I thought, yes, I can go into this, even more so now. And I didn't. I burn out. I really haven't done much since probably the end of August. And just recently, I felt the pull that I need to come back, mainly because I've had 2 customers that have dropped out. So my biggest thing right now is I'm going to be getting back more in touch with my customers and my ambassadors, just to kind of get myself kickstarted again.
I'm totally with you, Kim. Like, I was looking at a picture from 2 years ago of I had some people over in my living room for kind of like a get together, and only one person in that picture is still sharing about the opportunity. And like, it kills me inside. Oh my gosh, like I remember the excitement in the room. And, it's interesting because I remember Jen Hawkins saying, you got to take a look around, and the people that are going to stick with this and come with you are the last people you ever thought would. And the people that aren't are the last people that you ever would think would leave. And I think those things where, I will always 100% support somebody's decision, no matter what. Like, this isn't going to be for everyone. And if somebody decides to leave, but it does get in your head, and if you start questioning, like, well, what am I doing? Like, why, what am I not seeing that they're seeing? Why did they leave? Like, it was so good. And then you start wanting more for them than they wanted for themselves. And I think that's a really tough spot to be in. And it really just starts questioning all of these things. That starts making you doubt your own path. Like, okay, well, maybe this isn't happening fast enough, or maybe this, so I think that that's a hard thing to get through. But I do think that if you can fuel your own fire and get through that part, if somebody that you really loved and cared about decided to go and leave, I just think it's just one of those things that it really does take a self-driven person and a self-starter to get through that path. And I think it goes to say that, there has been instances over the last couple of months where there have been some Plexus people leaving for other opportunities. And there's a large group of people that just end up jumping and going. And I mean, for a lot of people, I'm sure it gets in their head, like, right away, like, well, that's intriguing. Like, what, they were so passionate about this, how can they jump over here and do something like that? I think it's the wrong mindset of, like, people getting angry at people that do that. Like, you should be supportive. But I also think that it can kind of go one or two ways. One way, it's going to be like, well, obviously that's so much better if that person's going to leave. Or, you know what, like, I would never be able to physically stand behind something the way that I feel about what I currently am doing. So I'm sticking to it, and I'm gonna, so yeah, I think that it can kind of make you in your mind go all over the map. But I love that you've gotten that pull. And do you feel like that came from a certain thing?
I think I just kind of lost myself for a while, with not having any of my kids here at home. And then my husband's a farmer. So when he's gone, I have a lot of time to myself, and I kind of got lost in it, I think.
Yeah.
And I think I just kind of found myself again. And I think when the second person that quit, she's been at it for over a year. And, she kept telling me how much better she felt in that. And then all of a sudden I just get this phone call, a couple days ago, just saying, I've decided I just want to stop. And I was like, wow, okay. She goes, you can tell me later if I come back and start saying, that I'm tired again and that I don't have any energy and or you can always tell me I told you so, and then I'll restart. But I'm just going to take a break now. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So
I guarantee you that she will be back.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Because I feel like sometimes that test for people, if they don't have that belief, is when they start feeling how bad they used to feel, and they have those recognizable symptoms of what they used to feel. And then they're like, okay, game on. Like, I'm coming back. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad that pull came to you. And you always, anything that you need from us, like, that's what I love about our environment and culture so much, is that I feel like you can get support from so many different people. There are a lot of people that I think getting lost in this journey is probably more normal than anybody could ever tell you. I've been there and done that many times too. But I think finding your way back is the most important piece. For sure.
Yep.
Steph, Marty, do you guys have anything?
I could have a full-on therapy session right now, but I don't know if you guys want to start there.
Bring it.
No, I'll just share that, for me, and Nicole, you've witnessed it. I think where I kind of waver is I kind of go back and forth on my belief and time and life and crazy, and I'm in my absolute busiest time for work right now. And on top of that, it started early this year, and then I feel like I've been off kilter basically since August, similar to what we just heard here. But yeah, I've lost similar to what Kim was saying, I've lost myself a little bit, and I haven't been as regular on my own products, and I haven't been keeping my relationship strong with folks. So I'm feeling that, but I feel like part of it is I just kind of needed to hunker down for me, and I've done this before. So there's definitely a trend. So I'm just trying to work through how to find that balance.
Yeah.
And I know you and I have talked about this before too, and I'm sure everybody here at some point has probably done this too, but it's, I feel like I have to go back to baby steps. And even if it's only 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes where I'm doing it, because I have a tendency, and I'm sure other people also feel this way sometimes too, but I get so overwhelmed by all the things that I do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the information you were sharing today was great. Like I said, I have my little therapy session. Sorry, but
no, oh my gosh, no, absolutely.
No, it's these are all good reminders that you shared, and I bought my little note cards to do your system, and I've not cracked it open yet, but I bought them.
You know what? See, there you go. Like you have it. I think there was a reason why you got it, and maybe if it works for you, I think that's awesome, because I know you're more of Marty's our tech savvy person, Kim. Like, I mean, she knows all. But I think Marty, I'm excited to see if that works for you. And I think 5 minutes, I mean, whatever you put forth, especially if it's baby steps, there's a reason why you're still doing it. So that's the most important thing. And once you tackle those 5 minutes and you kick it up to 15 or 20 or 30, whatever that is, I think that you'll see and feel a difference, especially in your confidence because let's be real, like, what is balance, right? Like, what does that even look like? It's hard. But I think that if you are real with yourself and say, I only have this amount of time, I think that is perfect, because you're setting it up the way that it works for you, because that's not going to work for anybody else that way.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. You guys have anything else? I know we ran over. I'm sorry. But I think this was a really good call tonight. And I just feel like it's coming at a time where people are, questioning their path and questioning where they are and questioning if they can continue to do this. And I just think it's important to recognize that and make sure that no one feels like that they're alone in that. Because I confidently can say everybody has been there. If they're not there right now, they've been there in the past, and they will be there again in the future. So I just think it's important to put it all out there and be real. So, well, thank you guys for jumping on tonight. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.